Coming up on this episode of Game, Fraggy gets his asphalt handed to him in Ubisoft's latest Speedy Chaser. We search the hidden directories of the World Wide Web for our fill of free-to-play goodies. And it's off to Michael Schumacher's home track to find out just what it takes to get a legend digitized. This is Game. Hey guys, it's that time of the week where we give you a healthy dose of digital delights. Kelly's the name and Game is, well, it's kind of all you need if you're in the market for a little video game consultation. And you're in luck because the doctor is in. Cue the Fraggot, our game guru who will cure you of any ailment or symptom you might be facing with regards to game withdrawal. If you're stuck in second gear and need a little pick-me-up, then maybe Driver San Francisco is right up your alley. Here to give us the lowdown on this action-packed joyride is the Fraggot. Let's see what he thought in this week's review.
On Driver San Francisco.
Convicted cop killer and international smuggling kingpin, Charles Jericho faces sentencing later today.
Jericho put a bullet in my back. Put a lot of good men in the ground.
Jericho's going down today. You did that. Be proud of that.
40 and 30 on the move to assist officers under fire from a goddamn news chopper.
Ray.
There's no part of me that wants to believe what I just saw.
But you saw it. I'm not losing my mind. It's real.
Salutations, my fellow console jockeys. Fraggy here, and in today's review, it's one for all the petrol heads as we check in with the latest driving game to hit the shelves. Driver San Francisco. Now, if you've been following the series for a while, the past driver games have always kind of been a mixed bag. Because while the first game pretty much pioneered the concept of open world driving, the next few driver games always kind of came across as a sort of Grand Theft Auto clone, with tacked on bits of third-person combat and action, which to be honest never really felt any good. Well, it seems like in this latest release, the team is actually learning from its past mistakes, going back to its roots and focusing on the actual driving that made the first game so much fun to play. Back in the shoes of Tanner, an ex-race car driver turned undercover cop, Driver San Francisco begins with a strange setup, as our hero gets into an accident which conveniently allows him to psychically shift between cars.
I'm in the ambulance.
Eyes on the city, Ray. Come on, let's go.
I'm Ray.
Realistic? Not by a long shot, but it sure makes for an interesting game mechanic. So without too much mucking around, strap on in as we burn some rubber with Driver San Francisco.
So, let me get this straight. Would you zap into a fine-looking lady?
I keep my hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to work.
Okay, so first off, the most notable addition is how the game makes use of this all-new shifting ability to get Tanner from car to car.
But here goes.
Pressing the shift button at any time gets you a bird's eye view of your surroundings, letting you quickly teleport yourself into any vehicle on the map.
Another car.
And far from this just devolving into a game of moving musical chairs, at its heart, what this does is allow Tanner to act as a sort of driving guardian angel, helping out folks in various side missions.
You've never raced before. I am please. I'm nervous enough already. Either we win the cash for your tuition, or we're on an airplane to Nagoya. Yes!
What did I say? Not a problem.
And if you like your driving games to come with variety, these side missions alone will have you covered with just so many ways to fool around on four wheels. From ones in which you'll have to quickly shift between races to stunt challenges and even a few off-road missions. The variety also lends itself to vehicles, with over 120 licensed cars, all with their own unique handling and speed.
Look at all their faces. Priceless.
Combine that with the sheer amount of stuff to do, and one of the most complete online multiplayer components in a driving game ever, and you've got a game that's incredibly fun to play.
Whoa! Yeah!
And finally, as an open world game, I love the general setting of San Francisco and the presentation, which I feel is kind of like one of those old buddy cop flicks, you know, because I think when it comes to the vibe of those old police shows, Driver San Francisco has pretty much nailed it. The environments are littered with veining alleyways, taking you through some of San Fran's most iconic streets. And if you feel like moving your booty in the bucket seat, just crank up that radio, because aside from all the banging cars included in this one, Driver San Fran also comes with one of the best soundtracks for a game this year, with almost 80 songs from artists like Uncle, Aretha Franklin, DJ Shadow, and even The Cure. Now, the thing about Driver San Francisco that most gamers will want to take note of is that because this game is so focused on providing a comprehensive arcade driving experience, if you're not into fun, fast, and unrealistic driving, there's not a lot to keep you interested. It's not really a flaw, but if you're looking on this year's Driver to be a sweeping open-world adventure, you're going to be disappointed because outside of the shifting mechanic, our hero doesn't even get out of the car. But hey, the game's called Driver. Of course it's about driving. You're not gonna buy a game like Forza or Gran Turismo and say that, hey, it's nothing but cars and tracks.
Now, pull over on the right here, please, Craig.
There's still time on the clock, and I want my money's worth.
Please, Cantuya. Inside, I'm still young.
In the end though, I must say that I'm actually quite surprised at the new direction in the series, but not in a bad way, because I definitely think there's a niche to fill when it comes to serious open-world driving games. For the first time in a long while, it actually seems like San Francisco is living up to its Driver name, and for once, not trying to copy Grand Theft Auto. Stripping the franchise of elements like combat and walking around, you know, things which made other open world games great, was a risky thing to do. But I think it's exactly this streamlining of the series which is the reason Driver San Francisco came out so good. A perfect game to pop on for a quick chase after a hard day's work, or if you've got company around, Driver San Francisco comes highly recommended.
If that's not enough to get your heart pounding and your blood racing, then I don't know what is. A big thanks to Frags for being the star that he ever is. All right, time to pull the handbrake and drift our way into a commercial break. But don't worry, we won't be long. And when we come back, we help you try before you buy. The Demo Derby is en route and on time. And we sift through the deluge of digital crap to bring you the best free-to-play games around. Welcome back. For those of you just tuning in, my name is Kelly and I'm very happy to bring you this next segment. It's all very exciting and thrilling, and maybe I should just stop mucking around with it and get on. Well, Spendthrift's on guard and I'll touche you with my army of free-to-play goodies that we've got all nicely lined up. A little something something for everyone. This is Online.
Kick-starting this week's edition of Online, it's a fragging feast for the senses as we begin with a mod that's looking to shake up the FPS scene in a rather unreal way. A free modification of the game Unreal 3. Galactic War comes to us at absolutely no cost. And if you're the kind of gamer who's grown up playing fast twitch shooters like Quake, the gameplay in this should be right up your alley. With a massive array of weapons and a selection of 14 maps to choose from, Galactic War is a noteworthy indie offering and, thanks to some terrific texturing work, also one of the better looking games out there. Now, a full campaign is said to be in development as we speak, but if you're liking what you're seeing and you can't wait to sink your claws into this, the multiplayer beta can be accessed by following the link below. Moving on, suit up and have your rifles at the ready because we're about to go into deep space to tackle a nasty alien invasion on what could be the smallest planet in the universe. In Space Trooper USA, as a lone space marine, it's your job to defend a hapless planet from the hordes of bug-like aliens looking to make quick work out of you. Now, don't ask me what the logic is behind sending just one guy to a lone planet, but with a slew of weapon mods, as well as upgrades to both weapon classes and movement speed, you may have come alone, but at least you came prepared. So if you're up for a bit of mindless bug-blasting fun, sign-ups to be a lone wolf in Uncle Sam's new intergalactic diplomacy division are now open. And to close up our selection of the week's best freebies, keeping our theme of space adventures going, we peer into an alternative dimension in a world where nothing is as it seems. In Topsy Turvy, the player Topsy accidentally falls into a portal, transporting him into another world. A world where the walls act as floors, and the floor, well, you get the idea. And the only way out, it seems, is to solve the puzzles of the world. Use your power of observation and logic to solve these brain benders, and hopefully take Topsy back to his own world. This interesting game will have you hooked with its simple gameplay and smooth soundtrack. So, if puzzle platformers are your forte, help our friend Topsy on his way.
Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed it. It should keep you busy till next week. Just make sure you tune in to catch what other freebies we've got lined up that we think are worthy of your time. Now, just in case you didn't manage to catch the links, head on down to the URLs listed below and you'll find everything you need there, including a way to get in touch with us. So if you're stuck with anything, you know who to call. And it ain't the Ghostbusters. Well, moving along to another favorite segment of yours and mine, it's time to try before you buy. We've got two very cool games up for you today, and first, it's Life in 2D, but in 3D. But actually it's 2D. Oh god, now I'm getting confused. Hold on now, we'll just cut straight to it. It's time for the Demo Derby. It's a space opera on this edition of the Derby. As war rages across the galaxy, only one force can hold the annihilation of mankind. Forged from blood and fire and tempered in battle, these Angels of Death are humanity's last hope in our never-ending battle against the Orc hordes, as we champion the heroes of Warhammer 40k Space Marine. Now in the demo, you play Captain Titus, leader of a pack of rough and gruff Ultramarines, as you take on your Orky invaders. Armed for battle with weapons like the Heavy Bolter, allowing you to take down the Horde from a distance, mow down your enemies with furious anger, or deal some damage up close and personal with the Chain Sword. Either way, those Orcs don't stand a chance. Now, on the surface, this one does bear a strong resemblance to games like Gears of War, but with combat which features no cover at all and a health system which heals you based on how much damage you dish out. If you're looking for a nice little burst of high-octane fantasy, the demo for Warhammer 40k Space Marine is out now. Remember, with one last chance to save this world from the darkness, there will be no mercy or remorse, only war. Moving on, time to turn down the gore and turn up the destruction as we check in with a rather humorous little action strategy title all about flinging your balls around. In Rock of Ages, it's tower defense with a spherical twist as you launch and control a large stone boulder trying to flatten your opponent's army, which does look a whole lot like a bunch of Monty Python cutouts. Now, at your disposal, you've got various defensive structures which you can lay down, but remember all the time, your opponent is doing the exact same thing. And as a strategy game, the aim in this one is to quickly set up your defenses, like windmill towers and even a couple of war elephants, to knock your opponent off the map or at least slow him down a little. With a visual style which draws inspiration from Renaissance-era art, as well as enemies which come in the form of various major figures in human history, get set to get stoned with this goofy new take on strategy, because Rock of Ages is out now. Kinda love the idea of smashing an orc's head. Gross, but very cool. Okay, time to pay our dues to the nice men that pay my salary. But don't worry, game will be right back. And when we return, we're going to get your mouth watering as we show you what's to come in the months ahead. And we gear up and get inside the latest installment of Pedal to the Metal Mania with Forza Motorsport 4. Hey guys, welcome back to the one place that shows you the ins and the outs of the gaming galaxy. Time now to buckle our belts as we check in with the latest in motorsports madness from our friends at Turn 10. Forza Motorsport 4 is the newest baby in the series of racing sims looking to usher in a whole new level of realism and detail into the high-octane, high-speed world of professional racing. A combination of lip sweat and burning rubber, we go inside Forza Motorsport 4.
Well, with Forza, we want to appeal to a wide range of customers, and people play the game for a lot of different reasons. Real-world tracks are compelling because people want to go out and drive the tracks that they see on TV, and famous race car drivers have driven from all around the world these exotic locations. Hockenheim in particular was a great opportunity for us to get a track in Germany and have some balance across Europe.
Hockenheim's a great track. It's been in DTM, it's been in lots of great sports car racing as well as other types of racing around the world. It's a really old track. It's a very high-speed track. So it had a lot of great components for us.
Hockenheim is very different from the Alps. It's in the middle of Germany, so it's one of the flattest tracks in the world. There really isn't any elevation change to the track itself. So it's just a very different experience. It's completely surrounded by trees, almost that sort of Black Forest feel, so that's something that we try to keep in mind as well.
Last year, Turn 10 Studios traveled to Germany to capture the track to bring it to life in Forza Motorsport 4.
First thing we wanted to do was drive around the track and get multiple perspectives of video for reference, and that really helps us get a good feeling for the track and help the other artists that weren't fortunate enough to come on the trip to get a real perspective of how things correlate to one another.
My plan was to capture every square inch of this place, from the smallest details like tire skids to spherical panoramas. Between the three of us, I would estimate that we won't be leaving this track with less than 10,000 photos.
We have many different techniques for capturing the track. One of them is that we lay down GPS splines. So we'll actually walk or drive around the track with different GPS devices so that we can accurately reproduce the topography and the camber of the track.
There's a guy that wears this military-grade GPS harness with his little antenna. It's sub-centimeter accurate on the horizontal, and it's sub-foot accurate on the vertical, and he walks the edges of the tracks. The poor guy that has this has to walk the inner and outer loops of this circuit and then get the outer barrier so that we get the exact information of where the ribbon goes, where the curbing is, where the walls are, all the structures. Everything is inch perfect where this stuff exists, all the camber angles in the corners.
Generally, the process for creating a track tends to be the same for all tracks. There'll be slight differences between real-world and fictional tracks, but the first thing we say is, what is the feel for this track? What are we trying to impart to the player? When it comes to real-world tracks, we want to make them as accurate as possible. Hockenheim in particular, that comes down to the Mercedes grandstand. There's a grandstand there that's shaped like a giant C, and it dominates the entire track. It's almost like a monument to the area itself, so we put a lot of detail into it. When you do look at it, it just has this sense of presence. When we feel this is really solid, we move on to the next stage, which is your refine phase, and we start doing our textures. So basically everything is there and to a level that we would consider shippable, but may not have that extra level of sparkle that we want it to. And then we take it into the polish phase, which is where all the love comes in. We get in and we model all the little details, where we try and say, okay, at this point, we know a lot of people are gonna hit this corner, so we're actually gonna scuff this corner up a little bit so that it's got a little bit of that character to it.
For the ultimate test, we'll bring in pro race drivers, guys like Gunnar Jeanette, who've actually raced on a lot of these tracks, to give us his feedback. Because it can be inch perfect, but he can be like, you know, I use this brake marker, this rubber strip, right before the curbing on this, and then I turn, and this seems like it's happening just a little bit late, or this bump isn't quite bad enough. This upsets my car when I go in over here. So we go in there and we make sure we get all those little subtleties right as well. So when you're racing a track like Hockenheim in the game, it's going to feel and look just like it does in the real world to real drivers.
We've measured, we've filmed, and we've photographed. It's time to take all of that source material and bring it to life. Here it is in all its glory in Forza Motorsport 4. It's Hockenheim.
Amazing the amount of detail that goes into making games these days. Definitely one to look out for when it gets released later in October. Well, it looks like we've covered all our bases. Oh wait, one more. How could I forget? It's time to whet your appetite with a little look at what's in store. And my crystal ball tells me that everything you need to know is in the preview.
In this week's edition of the preview, it's an all-action overload as we begin with the sequel to the most critically acclaimed game of 2009. Drakey's back, baby, in Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. Now, if Lara Croft and Indiana Jones ever had a baby, he'd probably be this guy. In this action-adventure, join famed fortune hunter Nathan Drake as he is catapulted into the heart of the Arabian desert in search of the mythical Atlantis of the sands. Seeing the return of a few familiar faces, Drake's Deception promises to have one of the best storylines of the series so far, making full use of motion capture technology.
He's not really a rug merchant.
With a newly redesigned multiplayer component, as well as full stereoscopic 3D support, fans have much to expect when Drake's Deception releases in November later this year. Up next, we take our first look at just what can be done with a spark of creativity and a whole load of talent. Made in just 9 months by a small team of game developers, Hawken is hard-hitting mech combat action like you've never seen. Set in a dystopian future where the hunt for resources has become a battle for survival, this multiplayer mech game is set to feature intense strategic battles, all of which take place in a gorgeously beat-up post-apocalyptic city. with the aim being to make the best mech game ever. We'll keep our ears peeled and you guys posted with more info on this title as it gets closer to retail. And finally, we take a look at the latest in a series which has been titillating fans since the turn of the millennium with its unique combination of brutality and boldness. Yep, the man with the moves, the assassin known only as Agent 47, is back for his 5th ride round the block with Hitman Absolution. Promising to challenge players with even smarter enemies this time around. The really interesting bit is that Absolution is also set to come with a totally redesigned gameplay system, something the developers are saying will be a familiar yet significantly different experience from the past games. So, same, but different it seems. Don't worry, we'll keep you updated with more info on this bad boy when our Hitman sets his sights on Absolution sometime next year.
Well, that's all my mystic prowess just about sapped up. I'll go and recharge my mana and I'm sure I'll be good to go again by our next episode. But if it's more you want, it's more you can get. Relive some of the best bits from game by heading on to espnstar.com/game. You can keep chatting with us and thousands of other gamers on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ESSGame. And for the ever important links and details, Twitter is where it's at. Twitter.com/ESSGame. Wait, one final prediction. I see you and me. And next week's episode of Game. I'll see you there.